Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, June 2nd at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call the Grand Chute Sanitary Commission meeting to order. Can we start with the roll call, please?
Commissioner Haling,
Here.
Commissioner Daly,
Here. Commissioner
Lear,
Here.
Commissioner Gehring,
Here.
and President English.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can I get approval of the agenda and the order of the day?
Gehring moves approval of the agenda and order of the day.
Lair seconds.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we'll have a presentation of the MS4 annual report and program update. Engineer Van de Hey, would you like to?
Thank you.
That?
So this is basically an annual summary that we do due to a report that needs to be submitted to the Wisconsin DNR, just summarizing the town's municipal permit activities for the prior year. So these activities apply to 2025 activities. So basically the reason the town is doing this is it starts with the Federal Clean Water Act, where each state has to go out and identify water bodies that are impaired by certain pollutants of concern. And then those are added to this federal list. Our specific pollutants of concern here in the Fox Valley, including town of Grand Chute, would be the sediment and the phosphorus pollutants. So photograph on the left shows the Fox River discharging into the Bay of Green Bay after a rain event, and you can kind of see the chocolatey water there, that's sediment in the water, and then you can see the clear blue water in the background. Likewise, on the phosphorus side, this is a photograph in the middle of the summer where they just dipped a cup in the Fox River, and you can kind of see the green color. That's just due to the LJ growth, which is primarily due to that phosphorus, excess phosphorus in the waterway. So due to those pollutants of concern, the state is required to generate a total maximum daily load. So this exercise was completed for the lower Fox River Basin back in 2012 for addressing those phosphorus and sediment pollutants. So if you remember back when the PCB problem was an issue on the river, this is the same regulation, and we kind of know how that took a different path than a TMDL, but the cleanup, was still handled through the federal process. And then we also have a TMDL that was developed for the Wolf River and Upper Fox River Basin, which drains into Lake Winnebago. And the reason this is up there is just for our Bear Creek watershed here in the town. But this TMDL, again, addressed the phosphorus and sediment pollutants, and that was approved in 2020 by the EPA. So the way these TMDLs are implemented is through the town's municipal permit through the Wisconsin DNR. The town first received its initial permit back in 2006, and then that was renewed in 2019, and will up for renewal again. The DNR is just putting the final touches on the new permit requirements. So this is just a map of the town, and it depicts which areas that stormwater runoff is discharging to which water body. So the pink areas would be Apple Creek, the blue area would be Bear Creek, yellow would be Fox River, and the brown is Mud Creek. And these are specifically tied back to that TMDL study that was completed and approved by the EPA. So when it rains or snow melts, right, the water is collecting pollutants as it flows. Sometimes it's across the lawn. It could be from the street. For instance, our vehicles, right? The exhaust fumes, our tires are wearing down. There might be some leaky fluids, in the vehicle. All those things end up on the streets, parking lots, over fertilizing on lawns. All that stuff gets washed away essentially into our storm sewer systems, drainage ditches, things like that, and then discharged into the streams and rivers and lakes. So what the DNR permit requires, and these are federal permit requirements as well, is these various control measures here that are listed, the different categories. And the stormwater quality management one at the bottom, that's where we're trying to meet the numeric standards in those TMDLs, where we're trying to reduce that phosphorus and sediment pollutant by a specific number, essentially. So that one tends to be the more costly of these different categories, but nonetheless, the other ones, we have specific requirements that we need to satisfy. So on the public education front, we're actually required to educate the public on the stormwater impacts and what they can do to help reduce those impacts. So item 3 up there are the different topics that we're required to educate elected officials, the general public, developers, engineers, you name it. Anyone involved in generating a potential pollutant needs to be educated, essentially. And we have different ways we can educate, whether our website, distributing information in newsletters, presentations such as this, could be volunteer events. And then item 4 at the bottom identifies the various target audiences. So in 2024, we achieved all those goals and completed those activities, and then 2025, same thing. We're also required to involve the public. So it's actually a permit requirement that we share the MS4 annual report each year. So we did that in 2024, doing that again here today. And then we're also supposed to, work through stormwater management responsibilities throughout the year, right? Talk through those permit requirements. The town is a member of the Northeast Wisconsin Stormwater Consortium, which is a member of all the permitted communities in Northeast Wisconsin, and they all kind of help contribute money, and then those are used to create educational materials and things like that. So it's a benefit to all our neighbors that are in the valley here and up into the Green Bay area. And then likewise, we have some volunteer activities. So the town has engaged in some park cleanup things in the past, or litter cleanup. So we had about anywhere from 1 to 10 people engaged in 2025 with volunteer activities. We also need to do screening of illicit discharges where our storm sewers or our ditches discharge into streams or rivers. So in the town, we have about 621 outfalls into those water bodies. And each year, the town tries to go out and screen those outfalls when it's not raining out, because you shouldn't see water coming out of a storm sewer pipe when it's not raining, right? Because it's there for rain. So when it's flowing during a non-rain event, it's more potent in pollutant discharges typically. So that's the purpose of doing these outfall field screenings, and during 2025, we completed 71 of those outfalls. So we're just on this rotation where we do a certain number each year to satisfy this requirement. And then from that field screening, number 3, did we find any illicit discharges? And during 2025, we did not find any, but we did find 3 in 2024. And then the rest of them you can kind of see are zeroed out. That's just where we're using the town's ordinance, and do we need to approach a landowner and issue a warning notice or a violation or things like that. And you can see that we have not needed to do that. We also have construction site requirements where we have an ordinance, and any construction site that's over 1 acre of land disturbance, we need to issue permits, do plan reviews, do inspections, just spot checking to make sure that they're implementing the erosion controls like silt fence and so forth. And if they're not, then we issue warning notices, whether it's verbal, written, or violations if it comes to that, stop work orders, all sorts of different tools in the toolbox for compliance. But you can just see a comparison of 2024 to 25. We can see we just had a little bit more construction activity as far as the number of sites and permits issued and the number of inspections, but maybe a little bit more written warning notices, but less verbal. And that's a summary of the construction sites. Post-construction sites are also under construction, but this is about them addressing stormwater pollutants after the site is fully constructed and now it's a operating business or residential development. that they have some type of treatment device to address pollutants from the development, essentially. So the number of sites that received approval for a new stormwater facility, such as a wet pond or something like that, we had 10 in 2025, 32 in 24. And then as those new sites happen, right, we have a lot of older development that might have a privately owned stormwater facility. So the town is going out and doing inspections of those privately owned facilities just to make sure that they're operating appropriately and still in conformance with the original approved plans. So during 2025, the town completed about 78 of those inspections. If you remember, we were ramping up those activities, doing mailers to landowners, just trying to refresh and make sure that those private property owners were doing the proper maintenance, essentially. So some of it was an education effort too. So this year, the town did send a bunch of letters under number 4 to the residents just after we educated, just saying, hey, you need to, you know, take this seriously and start. So it was more just putting them on notice that we have a renewed effort here to try to make sure you're doing your maintenance of your privately owned facilities. So warning notice might be a strong word for the letters that we sent. It was more of an education, and like if they don't follow through with those activities this year, next year, then it might get a little bit more firm with them. But at this point, it's just putting them on notice to make sure they're doing it and educating them about the requirement. And then pollution prevention, this is really just about town operations, essentially. So the town owns a number of stormwater ponds or facilities. So we identify that's 39, and then we need to identify any new ones that were constructed in the last year. So we said 0 in 2025. But we just entered into a municipal agreement with the city of Appleton for our Ridgeview project, so that will, you know, count, but city might be doing the inspections, but we'll get credit for it for meeting our TMDL numbers, so that was good. And then the town does do inspections of those private or the publicly owned, town-owned facilities, and then we sometimes need to follow up with maintenance at those facilities due to that inspection. You can see we had 17 of the facilities needed some type of maintenance last year. We also have the town hall here that needs to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and then from that, there's some inspections that are needed for that. So the town has been doing their inspections in 2024 and 2025. We're also doing street sweeping about once every 2 weeks along the town-owned streets, and through that effort, we collected about 372 tons of materials from the streets that didn't end up in the rivers, lakes, or streams, so that was positive. That tonnage was heavier than in 2024. Some of this is just due to each year being a little different, the amount of rainfall, things like that. We tend not to do anything with catch basin sumps because we don't generally have them here in the town, so, and we're not using them for our TMDL compliance. So we also do not provide curbside leaf collection. Some communities do that, and then the DNR just wants to know more details about what that program looks like. Whereas here in the town, residents can take their materials to the compost site essentially instead, or dispose them in other ways. We also need to track how much ice or de-icing we're applying to our roads, just as more salt is applied, right? That ends up in the rivers and streams, and they're freshwater bodies, not saltwater bodies. So DNR just likes to know what communities are doing on that front. So we list the number of lane miles that we have of roads at 266 lane miles, so that's unchanged. And then we also have our salt applied from October to March. So the tonnage was a little bit less on that, going from 24 to 25. And we also had used less brine, which would be salt basically dissolved in water, essentially applied to roads. So that was down a little bit too. And again, that just might be the difference in the weather or the winter that we had in that 2024 October to March period versus the 25. And then we're also, we're not applying beach use or other things like that to our roads. So those are all zeroed out. And then we're also required to do municipal training for municipal staff. So the town sent some members to some salt training on how to apply road salt and calibrate equipment, things like that. So So again, educating town employees is part of the permit requirements. So we also have the different types of management practices, right, that are used to meet the numeric standards. These are just some of the different practices that can be utilized. And we have probably all of these here in the town, but a lot of our workhorses are our wet detention ponds, just because they're typically the most cost-effective ones. We also have grass road ditches and rain gardens, things like that as well. But this map essentially shows all those different facilities that we utilize. There's a lot going on in the map, so but basically the blue watersheds are stormwater facilities that are proposed for retrofit in the coming years, decades. The orange ones are existing wet detention ponds, so the blue ones are generally new ones. The one that's kind of shown in the white area, it's a large blue shape there, that's actually the Memorial Park Pond in Appleton there that we just entered into an intermunicipal agreement on, so that identifies the lighter blue area as a portion of Appleton that discharges to that facility, and then the darker blue is the portion of the town. But that's just an example of intergovernmental cooperation, trying to leverage municipal dollars as effectively as we can for everybody. So next year we'll be able to take credit for that in next year's report. So, but that's what I have for you. It's just an overview. I mean, obviously there's work to do yet, but we continue to plug away at it. There's
Thank you.
questions.
Are there any questions? Comments? Thank you very much for your report. Is there any public input?
There is none.
Can I get approval of the consent agenda?
Gearing moves approval of the minutes from the May 19th, 2026 agenda, meeting.
Lear seconds.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have the financial reports. Can I get approval of the financial reports?
Haley moves approval of the financial reports.
Daily seconds.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And finally, we're up to item H, adjournment.
Haley moves to adjourn.
Gearing second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you so much for your time. Now I'd like to call the Town of Grand Chute Town Board meeting to order. Can I get approval of the agenda and the order of the day?
Haley moves to amend the order of the day. Make a motion to move item C to actually the area of new business, item G7, consideration of agreement for services between Axion and the Town of Grand Chute for installation and operation of 23 fixed point ALPR cameras.
Do I have a second?
Lear seconds.
Any further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. So we're going to skip over right now the presentation of from the representatives from Axon until later. Is there any public input?
There is none.
Okay. Can I get approval of the consent agenda, please?
Gearing moves approval of items 1, 2, and 3 is listed in the consent agenda.
Lear seconds.
Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We're up to now to the financial reports. Can I get approval of the financial reports, please?
Haley moves approval of financial reports.
Daily seconds.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We're up to new business, item G. Plan Commission recommendations. Number 1, special exception permit SE 052026 requested by Lube Plus Incorporated at 4750 West Michaels Drive for operation of an electronic message sign center. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Are there any questions or comments, or what are the wishes of the board?
Gearing moves approval of SE 05-2026.
Lair seconds.
Any further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Second is consideration of position description, position announcement, advertising plan, and position profile for the town administrator recruitment. Can I ask Dave Brettel to come up? Good afternoon.
Good evening, Madam Chair and supervisors. I am back here tonight. You recall the last time I was with you was in May, and at that time, you had decided to kick off the administrator recruitment, and so we had our meeting, we established some dates there, and then also had got your approval on a survey which we had distributed. I appreciate Greg had distributed that, and our feedback on that was quite good, I thought. So based on that, I put together some documents for the recruitment, and the idea is tonight just to we'll spend as much time as you need. It can be brief, or you might have some changes. We want to make sure that all the documents are up to your standard before we begin the advertising, because it becomes very difficult to change things once we start the recruitment. So I'll go through these in order, and let's make sure that I answer all the questions that you have tonight before we launch our campaign. So with that, I'd start unless there's any questions to begin with. I'll follow in order of the memo that was distributed in the packet. So the first item in there is the position description, and we had talked about that at the last meeting. I think there were a couple of typos. I have it's kind of in mouse type here in your packet. I apologize for that, but I had made some corrections in there to update the FTE count, update the budget numbers, clean up some typos, but then I also wanted to make sure that I captured what you were looking for in paragraph number 5, which had to do with the Visitors and Convention Bureau and also the Sports Development Board. So I had rewritten that, subject to appointment by the town board, serve on the Fox Cities Convention and Visitor Board, and then serve on the Fox Cities Development Board, promote tourism in the community for the benefit of the community, First Champion Center, Fox River Mall, and the town's numerous hotels and restaurants that exist to cater to tourists in the Grand Chute community. Does that capture it? I didn't see any ordinances or bylaws that required the appointment of the administrator to those committees, but you can tell me. So I think that was a concern last time, was that the board would actually make the appointment to that committee. Did I get that one okay? Or?
Are there comments?
I think it's all right.
Yeah, that looked good.
Does
Okay.
it sound better? Okay, thanks.
Any other concerns about the position description? I think the other items in there were fairly.
I had one, Dave.
Yes.
Only because I read this morning the brochure that you sent that we had been waiting for. And I noted it had a different budget number than what I saw in the position announcement. And then I also see that same budget number is in the position description. So in the brochure that you sent,
Sure.
it was 73.2 million.
So I did, and if your finance director can embarrass me and correct me here tonight. So I had taken, let's make sure we get the numbers consistent. So I had in the brochure 73.2 million all funds with a 26.6 million general fund expense budget. So what did I write here? Yeah, okay, 70. That should be updated to 73.2. Does that get it, Greg?
That is, and then it'll appear again in the position announcement when we get to that, but
Got it.
I can mention it at that point
I
too.
appreciate that. Yeah, I was going over the numbers multiple times and didn't catch them all, so thank you. So I'll correct that in the position description, and then I'll get you a copy of that corrected. Then I included in the packet just some of the results from the survey that were filled out, and the results here were fairly consistent with the previous surveys that we've done. There was a little bit of jockeying around in terms of the rankings, but in general, I think last time you had strategic planning first, then budget development. Those two just flip-flop, but obviously budget development, strategic planning, capital improvement planning were super high priorities for the vast majority of your employees, I think, and board members. And then economic development was strong, and you also see that in some of the goals. And then intergovernmental relations actually had displaced human resources from the last time that we had surveyed. But there's nothing too earth-shattering there. I think you guys are consistent in what you want. We just got to find that individual for you. In terms of the attributes, again, fairly consistent. You're looking for collaborative, individual, approachable, open and positive communication skills, possesses good self-awareness, and is responsive to board and employees. I also included in there some of the near-term and the 5-year longer range goals, and roadway it was high priority among a lot of the recipients. Space needs was an immediate priority. The budget is always a challenge with levy caps and an increased need for services. And in some of the long range goals, a number of respondents had talked about that strategic plan and the importance of completing that and implementing it. And then there was a couple of other items that I thought were interesting, defining the town's identity, managing growth, and maintaining quality services while remaining affordable. So I had tried my best to include those in some of the recruitment documents. And we'll also share that with applicants when we talk to them and get folks interested in the position. Are there any concerns about that? Does that surprise anybody, or do you take issue with any of the results there?
No, I think you captured.
All right, I'm
What we were
doing
looking
doing
for.
better than I did on the budget then, so we'll take that as a win. So attachment 3 then is the position announcement. So I already got Greg's 73.2 million all funds. This would be the ad that we would run on the job boards generally, and we just try to promote the town a little bit. There's typically word space constrained there, but you know, the first couple paragraphs just, it is a unique organization, and as much as it's a very large town, certainly by Wisconsin standards, and we promote or point that out. Second paragraph, you know, trying to interest people in the community. You've got a very dynamic, interesting place to live here, so we try to capture that in the second paragraph. The third and fourth paragraphs really talk about some of the scope of responsibilities here with the budget, the number of employees, the departments that you have, services that you provide. Talk about the sanitary districts, TIDs, and then the key priorities. That's where I included some of that survey feedback in there, improving the town's road system, sustainable long-term funding sources. The second to the last paragraph is the qualifications for the job, and that I took from your position description, and then the hiring range for the position, and the application instructions. July 6th would be when we would close the application. Did anybody have any concerns or corrections or additions to that?
Do you want to discuss it?
I've got a few, Dave. So the budget figure again, that we already talked about the 73.2,
Yep.
but then the general fund budget also in the brochure
Yep,
was 26.6.
let's do that. Thank you.
And then in the fourth paragraph down, the last sentence, the town currently has 5
Okay,
tax incremental districts instead of 4.
got it.
Then in the next paragraph, The comment about conducting the comprehensive review of space needs and completing the strategic plan. So the space needs analysis has been completed, and the strategic plan will be completed by the appointment date. So if you look in the brochure that you just provided, you've addressed that issue, or both of those issues. So you talk about implementation of the strategic plan
Yeah.
as opposed to creating or developing it. And I think you also made similar comments about the space needs. You talked about the analysis being done, but implementation being.
Sure. So the space needs then is at the point of implementation and
Yes.
completed. And then the strategic plan, does that still need
The
to be
same,
completed?
it'll be implementation.
Implementation.
So if you looked at the language you put in the brochure,
That'll
that
work.
would take care of it,
All right,
because that's how you phrased it in the brochure.
I'll do that.
And then the only other thing is, just yesterday, we spent some time with our strategic planning consultant, and she had done a survey for us. And that survey revealed, it was like a 90%, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, but a 90% satisfaction rate with quality of life in the town. So we thought we'd incorporate a sentence that reflects that, and
Yeah.
perhaps somewhere in the, second or third paragraph. And I could certainly give you a call tomorrow or talk
would be
about
great
how
if
we
you-
would phrase that, but we thought this would be the place to incorporate that information.
Absolutely. That would be, that's a neat accomplishment, so absolutely. If you can get me that, Greg, I'll make sure.
I can certainly call you in the morning if that would work for you.
Okay, yep. Okay, I appreciate that, and that's why we do this. Any other concerns about that?
Good, I think that covers it too.
Let's see. Then, following along, I've got my marketing plan in there. So understand, this is our second recruitment, so we waive our professional fees. The town's responsible for paying my mileage and advertising actual costs. So this is what basically we ran the last time and is fairly consistent with what we do in these recruitments. Any concerns about that? Any oversights or things you'd want to question on that? Like I said, we'll keep it open for about 30 days, which is how long most of the job boards will post the ad. We also, a lot of it now is directly reaching out to candidates too, so we do a lot of that. There's no questions on that. Attachment 5, I had included the recruitment schedule in there just as a double check. And I think as far as you go, the only dates that you need to be concerned about is that town board meeting on July 21st, which would be the selection of your final candidates. So I'll have a report to you on the 14th, and we'll figure out how to distribute that. But that report will have the summary of the resumes, our recommendation, and Zoom interviews, short Zoom interviews with the most qualified candidates. So we'll get that to you on the 14th. The 21st, then I'll be back here and we'll meet and hopefully have a robust group of candidates there to pick from, and you can we'll notify those folks for the assessment. And then the only other date on there that you really need to save is for our assessment, which is on the 28th and 29th of July. And your date for that would really be the 29th, the second day of that, when you would do the interviews of the candidates and also deliberate and set negotiating parameters if you get that far. So the first day of that assessment would be basically a staff exercise, and we'll be here to support that as well. So let's see, I've got a new recruitment schedule.
Dave, I had one question on the calendar also.
Yes.
And it doesn't affect the board, but for the candidate's sake, on the second page of the calendar, you talk about the 28th and 29th for the assessment, and then something taking place the week of August 3rd. Then after that, it says early as the week of July 27th. There could be the additional basically post conditional offer steps. And the 27th is actually falls before the board will see the candidates, so.
Let's see, as early as the 20. So what, yeah, your assessment is on the 28th, as early as the week of, assuming the assessment takes place on the 20th. Oh, I see what you're saying, candidate.
I'm assuming then that those, the background, the drug screen, those post-conditional offer steps would obviously have to take place after the board sees the candidates on the 29th, so.
Yes, you would, and I can clarify that for sure. Ideally, if you select somebody or give me directions on the 29th, then that's a Wednesday, we could potentially wrap things up by that week. Background check and different activities, I'll make sure that's going to be after your selection, absolutely. So, any other questions I can answer tonight? I appreciate the.
I just have one question for the administrator. We're talking about having a 2-hour closed session meeting on a board night. That's what we agreed to. I can't remember now.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Good, and that would be like a 6 PM meeting, is that?
pardon me?
6 PM meeting?
6:30.
Well,
6:30.
6:30, and now that's unless we wanted to schedule something outside of the
Additional.
normal board meeting.
I know we were trying to accommodate all the board supervisors.
Yeah,
I think,
okay.
so, yeah. That's okay. I'm asking again out loud because we're gonna set these dates. Okay,
Good, and if, I'll have the materials for you in advance, hopefully, that'll shorten that period up, but I get it. We'll try to be as efficient as we can that night, because you've got other business. So with that, I think if there's no other questions that I can answer, I've got my marching instructions. Greg, we'll chat tomorrow, and I'll
Yes.
fix up our ad, and we'll get that posted, and we'll keep you posted, Mr. Administrator and Madam Chair, as to how we're doing in the process, and it usually takes a little while to get the apps in, but we'll do our best for you.
wish us
and
all luck. Thank you so much.
See you next month. So,
Okay,
thank you very much.
yes. Okay.
I can make a motion to approve. Law.
Yeah, I think that's what we need, yes.
Motion to approve the position description, position announcement, advertising plan, position profile for the town administrator recruitment, along with the corrections that we had discussed with Mr. Brown.
Lair seconds.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Now we're up to Public Works Storage Building Change Order. Can we have some description of that from Director Jolma?
All right, thank you. So as you recall, the Public Works Storage Building Contract Award was approved back in March. We had talked at the time that we held off on some potential additional items with that project to try to make sure that it came on budget. With the available budget that we had, we had also discussed the possibility of bringing back future additional improvements to add into this contract. This is the first one that I'm presenting to you tonight. It's to extend the length of the building by approximately 20 feet. So it's basically adding about 8% total length to the building that's being proposed. With the proposed cost of $407,000 for this extension, it's about 10% of the additional contract cost. So it's kind of right in line with the additional length. And I just wanted to note that the incorporation of this change order, and then we also had approved a previous budget transfer from SAN 2 out of this budget item for a different project. We still are projected to remain within budget by about 1.5 million after this. We're also looking at adding potentially another future change order to this project, construction of a coverall hoop structure for storage of street sweepings, needed to replace the existing old salt storage shed that would be removed with this project. So we're working on getting that information all finalized, and it will be presented back to the board at a later date.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions? What are the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve change order, number one, in the amount of $407,028.97.
Daley seconds.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 4, 2025-06, Ridgeview Area Street Reconstruction and Nicolay Road Water Main and Road Reconstruction Construction Services, RFP Award. Director Jolma?
Okay, so this was a project that was just awarded at the last town board meeting for the construction services, or for the actual construction for the contractor. This now is proposal from McMahon Associates to provide the construction, inspection, and administration for all these projects that are listed before you. It includes administration, observation, and a day-to-day site inspection, as well as construction staking. With these costs all taken into account of the previous construction contract awarded, as well as the costs proposed in this construction inspection contract, kind of how it was described in the previous town board meeting. We're doing really well on all the accounts, the various accounts for this project, except for the stormwater sanitary 3 account, which we talked about would be related to the previous land acquisition and the pond construction costs.
Any questions? What are the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve, item 2025-06 in the amount of $204,800.
Lair seconds.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Number 5 is agreement for residential solid waste collection services between the town of Grand Chute and GFL Environmental Services USA LLC. I expect this is Greg that wants to cover this.
Sure. Thanks. Just give a little bit of background. Current agreement with GFL will expire on July 2026. When it was originally signed and implemented 10 years ago, back in July of 2016, the services included in the agreement were weekly collection of solid waste for residential properties, 4 times per year, or quarterly collection of overflow waste. It also included on-demand bulk waste pickup and collection of refuse at town-owned facilities. The contract did not cover recycling services; those are covered by Allegheny County. GFL currently picks up recycling in the town of Grand Chute, but it is through the Allegheny County recycling contract. In addition, the tipping fees that you get billed for through refuse collection is with Allegheny County as well. It's not through the contract with the refuse collection. Knowing the agreement would be ending this summer, we began working on the refuse agreement earlier this year. We began discussing extending the existing agreement with GFL for another 10 years. We discussed this with our attorney to make sure we were following the proper legal steps. Currently, the town is paying $3.64 per garbage cart collected. In the state of Wisconsin, we are seeing contracts with per cart costs ranging from anywhere between $4 to $8 per cart, similar sized municipalities. And in larger sized municipalities, it's going from $8 to $13 per cart. So we were kind of expecting to incur a higher cost for our refuse collection with a new agreement. With the proposed agreement with GFL, the cost per cart collected is going to be $4 starting in July, and that would increase to $4.60 in January of 2027, and then it would increase 3% each year. The new agreement also includes some increases in bulk waste and street collection as well. With the increases in overall costs, we estimate that in 2027, each residential household would pay $125.03 per year, which is up by 26.4%. Last year, residents paid $98. The statewide average is around $144 to as much as $660 add to that, it is really difficult to compare locally our contract with other local municipalities. A lot of this has to do with many surrounding communities manage their own solid waste in-house. For example, Neenah, Little Chute, and Appleton, they provide their own services. Standardized services, for example, one size fits all. Greenville just renewed their contract with Harders Disposal, and Harders is charging Greenville $6.78 a month, but they're strapped into one size of 65-gallon carts, so they're less flexible. Our service is much more flexible. We offer 96 gallons and 65-gallon carts to our residents. On the smaller size of things like Vandenbroek, I think I'm pronouncing that community's name right, and Freedom, they're smaller communities, and they're at the $3, $3.25 cost per cart. But again, they're significantly smaller than Town of Grand Chute. Their services aren't as robust as ours. Other examples of making it difficult is route complexity and population densities. And refuse contractors will look at all of that to establish the pricing. So it is very hard to look locally. You kind of need to look at the entire state average statistically to see where we're at. Approach agreement, we maintain the same level of services that I described earlier. There are no changes to the route collection schedules or changes to the routes in general. We do feel the proposed refuse agreement with the GFL is fair, and although I get it, costs are increasing, but we still feel they're market competitive throughout the state of Wisconsin. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Any further discussion? What are the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve the contract with GFL for residential solid waste collection services.
Daley seconds.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 6 is consideration of early termination of the agreements for services between Flack Safety and the Town of Grand Chute. Chief Moss, do you want to kick this off?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I wanted to provide some background on the use of ELPR technology, or automated license plate recognition technology in Grand Chute, to more fully inform the board about where we've been and where we aspire to go. We've used ELPR technology in Grand Chute for the past decade. The legacy equipment involved roof-mounted cameras on our police patrol vehicles that collected license plate data as they moved about the community. And these cameras were provided through a company called Genetec. In 2024, we transitioned from this legacy technology to our current solution, which runs ELPR through our in-car fleet cameras. The same cameras that record evidentiary video from our police patrol vehicles are collecting ELPR data as the vehicles move through the community. And that technology is now provided by Axon. Over the past decade, we found that mobile ELPR has been most effective in alerting patrol officers to vehicles of interest nearby, such as stolen vehicles, missing persons, felony-involved vehicles, and other issues, which officers then take immediate action. Once fixed ELPR entered the market, we found it proved very useful for proactive alerting of vehicles entering the community, which had been reported as stolen, involved in felonious activity, or otherwise wanted by the police. At the same time, it served as a useful tool for conducting historical searches and serves as a lead generator for investigating crimes after they've been reported. A recent analysis of the department's uniform crime reporting data showed clearance rates and arrest rates increased across the board in total crimes against persons, crimes against property, and crimes against society from 2023 to 2025 when it was compared with 2019 to 2022. Significant and notable changes were observed beginning in 2023 and have continued through the most current available data, which is 2025. And most interestingly, we observed more than a 20 percentage point increase on crimes against persons cases cleared by arrest in 2023 to 2025 when compared with 2019 to 2022. We jumped from an average arrest clearance rate of 47.93% to 68% of crimes against persons cleared by arrest. This is not an anomaly, and it leads to the conclusion that something very significant happened in 2023 that led to these changes. It's hard to ignore that we adopted fixed ALPR in 2023. And while I can't tell you with absolute certainty that our clearance and arrest rates have been bolstered exclusively by fixed ALPR technology, I can tell you that our patrol officer staffing and our call for service volume has generally remained consistent during that time, which are typically things I would look at to try to explain why those numbers have been significantly elevated. I've kind of been at a loss for other explanations as to why these changes have occurred. Anecdotally, fixed ALPR technology is used by our department on a near daily basis. From proactive alerting of vehicles to the historical searches, I believe that this technology is helping solve crime faster and more efficiently. I wanted to highlight a few cases over the past years that underscore how this technology has been used. I picked one case from each year, but there are hundreds more we could have selected. In 2023, we investigated an armed robbery where a female was walking out of the mall to her vehicle, was approached by a male who held a knife up to her and forced her into her vehicle. The subject then drove her vehicle with her and her son in it. They stopped in Neenah. The female and son jumped out of the vehicle, and flock was used by multiple agencies in the case to locate the suspect, and he was ultimately taken into custody in Omro. In 2024, a victim reported that her wallet was stolen at a local retail store. Her credit cards were fraudulently used, 3 transactions totaling $8,750. We sent out a crime alert, and multiple agencies responded saying they had similar incidents with the same suspects. Flock, at the time, our fixed ALPR provider, was used to determine where the vehicle had been, where it had been traveling, and certain descriptors of the vehicles. Our investigator utilized other law enforcement databases to obtain the license plate of the vehicle, found a traffic stop had been conducted on the vehicle previously, and matched the suspects involved in that traffic stop to the suspects involved in the thefts and frauds. Suspects were ultimately charged in federal court in Illinois for multiple crimes in multiple states. In 2025, we investigated a burglary to a residence where 4 firearms were stolen and a vehicle was taken. The officer investigating used flock to see the direction of travel of the stolen vehicle, then used flock to observe a different vehicle traveling in tandem with the stolen vehicle. The vehicles hit off of numerous cameras at different locations, making it appear as that the stolen vehicle was following the other vehicle, which ultimately was the suspect vehicle in these thefts. The suspect was ultimately arrested. And in 2026, we had a robbery at a gas station where the male subject came into the store, grabbed merchandise, went to the clerk, and threatened to pull out a gun. The male left the store with merchandise and went to a nearby vehicle, but the only description obtained was a red sedan with the letter A in the license plate. Investigators used these fixed ALPR cameras to confirm the vehicle and ultimately locate and arrest the suspect in the case. So we're here today to discuss the termination of a contract that seems to have brought significant results to our community. The specific reasons for this were outlined in the board memo, and they really relate to service issues, but more importantly, concerns about the vendor itself. And I'm concerned about some recent inaccurate information provided by Flock, but I'm also troubled with the programmatic changes made by the vendor, which make it more difficult for me to ensure that our sharing partners are using our data according to our internal policy and acceptable use philosophy. These concerns have been repeatedly brought to Flock's attention, but there has not been any improvement. Over the past 10 years of ALPR use in Grand Chute, I'm not aware of a single case of misuse by our officers. One of the reasons for this is that we hire only the best employees that meet our high standards of character. But at the same time, we believe in implementation of strict controls through policy and procedure. We're actively auditing our officer usage of ALPR technology and have clearly communicated to our staff that misuse will result in swift and severe discipline. The same holds true for the many other law enforcement databases that our officers have access to. While I'm confident about how our data is being used by our staff, I'm not as confident about how it's being used by our sharing partners. Changes made by Flock reduced our visibility to audit logs from external agency searches, which resulted in my decision to discontinue participation in the National Lookup Tool and sever sharing relationships with all out-of-state partners. Today, we share data with 226 police departments in the state of Wisconsin. We do not share with any agencies outside the state of Wisconsin, and we do not share with any federal agencies. Furthermore, we've disabled national lookup, and we require every search to be accompanied by an offense type, detailed search reason, and a case number when it's available. Even with these controls in place, I continue to be concerned that we cannot audit external searches of our data in a simple manner. One solution is to eliminate all sharing relationships with other law enforcement agencies, but that unnecessarily severs relationships with agencies vital to our collective law enforcement efforts in the Fox Valley, such as the Appleton Police Department, who we work closely with. I believe that there is a competing vendor that will bring greater value to the town of Grand Chute and places an incredibly high value on trust, transparency, agency control, and the privacy of our residents. These concerns that I have with Flock have all been satisfied by the solution offered by Axon, and I plan to talk more about that at the next agenda item. Attorney Rossmeisel has reviewed our current contract. It's my understanding that he concurs with the assessment that if terminated for convenience by the town would incur a removal fee of $500 per camera for a total of $11,500 for our current contracts. It's important to note that our invoice from Flock has been received but not yet paid. It has a due date of June 18th, 2026, and I currently have it on hold pending the board's decision. Therefore, the references in my memo to a refund would actually be funds not expended. If a decision is made by the board to terminate the agreement, we would provide notice to Flock and request a new and updated invoice to be made or provided to us to make payment against. Be happy to take any questions you have.
Thanks for your assessment. Other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the termination of all agreements for services between Flock Safety and the town of Grand Chute.
Daly seconds.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next up.
Thank you again, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We've been doing business with Axon for 22 years, implementing ELPR for more than the past 10 years, and using one of Axon's ELPR solutions since 2024. I've been talking with Axon about fixed point ALPR since October of 2025. This is not a knee-jerk reaction to recent events. It's a thoughtful transition spurred by a variety of concerns, many of which I just talked about. And I believe that Axon provides a solution that provides additional benefit to the department, but more importantly, puts us in full control of our data and how it's used. The approach to privacy that Axon has taken is an important differentiator between them and other vendors, which they will speak about shortly. In addition to alleviating some of the privacy concerns, Axon's data security practices are widely held as some of the best in the industry. You shouldn't take my word for it. Take a look at their certifications in third-party intrusion testing. And to be fair, I don't know what those certifications are, but I talked to our IT director who assured me that they are impressive. We trust Axon with nearly all of our digital evidence created from our squad and body cameras without a single data security issue over the term of our relationship with them. When it comes to the financial side, it would cost more money to move from Flock to Axon, and I think there's probably good reasons for that. Finances should not be the sole determinant of making a change like this, but it has always been a priority of mine to stay within budget and be fiscally responsible for our taxpayers. And through negotiations with Axon, this proposal is essentially cost neutral. The structure of the agreement absorbs the anticipated removal fee assessed by Flock and provides the service at the same rate that we had been paying under the Flock agreement. And in total, Axon has applied more than $75,000 in discounts to this proposal. I have with us today Abe and Jack from Axon, who are going to give a brief presentation about how they do things a little differently than what we saw with Flock.
Good evening. Thanks for coming.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Supervisors. Thank you for having us today, and thank you, Chief, as well. Little introduction. My name is Jack Torgler. I've been with Axon a little over 2 years. I've been working with Chief since the start of the year on this project. And so again, just want to say thank you for having us. I want to introduce some of my colleagues as well. We have Abe here, who's our vehicle intelligence specialist. So he specializes in this product. And then on the Teams meeting, I believe we should have Kevin Watson and Jordan Sowers. Kevin Watson's also a vehicle intelligence specialist, as well as Jordan Sowers is our government affairs over at Axon. So want to bring a full team here today to support this. Able to get the full presentation mode. So let's go swap displays. Nice. Yep, so if you want to hand those out. Perfect. So Abe is going to be handing out a little pamphlet. I think we left a couple on the table at the back. What this pamphlet has is just a little bit about how we protect your data, some of the things that we implement differently than some of the other vendors. And also on that second page, you'll kind of see our integrity that we implement for that as well, and a little bit more about the product itself. But the slide you see above on your screen here is just a little bit about our relationship with Grand Chute, like Chief mentioned, as well as we just wanted to list a couple other agencies who are currently using our outpost cameras, as we call them, or vehicle intelligence. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Abe, and he's going to go a little bit deeper into the agenda and more of that. So.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair and town supervisors. Thank you for giving us the time to be here today. Really appreciate it. I wanted to set an agenda for today, just kind of talk about 3 things in general. Just kind of talk about data privacy, questions that our officials are asking us, and then lastly, just how we compare to the competition. So I'll start off with data privacy. So with Axon, we really let the agency choose their data, what to do with it. It's their data, they own it, they can choose to share it with agencies across the state, right next to door to you guys like Appleton. Essentially, let the agency do whatever they want. With the data itself, obviously, it's up to the agency to set retention categories, how long they want to give access to a certain plate read, or overall, they can choose whatever they want to do and how long they give access to the other agencies as well. I'll stop there to kind of just talk about the data privacy portion of it. Any questions? And just touching a little bit more about the data privacy as well. At Axon, we don't have a national lookup. We have the agency create their own network based on the agency they work with. We're very transparent. Everything that they do within our system is audited, so it can be, everything that is in our system is logged, so it can be audited if needed. We can provide transparency portals as well, 30, 60, 90 days audit logs, you name it, we can all do that on the back end, and it's all configured by the agency. Some questions, I want to just point out a few questions that we're getting asked by elected officials. They're on the screen there. Just one of them is, which I touched on, is the data pool. No, we do not maintain a data pool. Can Axon disclose our data without permission? Nope. It's up to the agency and the town. Can the federal agencies access our LPR data? Nope. That is not something we do. And then lastly, is governance enforced by design or just policy? And it's enforced by design. These are the 4 most asked questions, but please, any questions, concerns that Jack and I can address?
Is there any way for the federal government to force your hand and get access to the data, be it for intelligence reasons or having some sort of national emergency?
Nope. If we were going to get a FOIA request or any of those requests, we would just hand it over to Chief Moss, and they would say yes or no to that request itself. We won't have any say in it. Good question. Thank you.
So all open records requests would be responded by Grand Chute. Okay, all right.
Alrighty. Lastly, I just want to talk about a little how we're different than the competition. Chief Moss mentioned the Fleet 3 camera system, the in-car camera system that we have already deployed with y'all. The outpost cameras, what Jack was talking about, that's what we are currently going to be, or hopefully going to be deploying with Grand Chute, and that's what we have currently during trial. Our cameras, big differences between us and Flock is we include ALPR, live streaming, and you own the data and the equipment as well. So as everything is owned by the agency. And then I wanted to point out just a couple more differences. This is more toward IT, SOC 2 type FedRAMP and all that, CJS certified as well. So that's just talk about the back end and how we keep privacy and obviously being secure at top of our systems. No, like you mentioned, no backdoor federal access on there as well. All the retention categories are set and enforced by the agency, not us. Any questions about the differences that you, obviously Chief Moss and Jack and I have talked about, but any other concerns or questions in general? Great, I'll finish with this one right here, which is, talks more about IT related, right? But this is all kind of a part of our certifications, encrypted end to end. You know, we have everything with the audit logs portion of it, and everything is configurable as far as the data retention goes. It's all based on the agency itself. There, last thing I did want to mention, there are some flyers at the back for the town as well. If you guys want to take a look at those. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and consideration here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Madam Chair, if I may add just a couple things.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So there are some distinct differences that they talked about. A couple of them that I want to highlight is the Axon ALPR solution does include, like they mentioned, live stream video and recordable video that we would be able to use for monitoring of intersections, intelligence related to vehicle crashes that occur in intersections and that type of thing. The solution that they provide is owned by the agency. So the Flock agreement that we had, the vendor owned the equipment and leased it to us, essentially. They owned the poles, they owned the cameras, they owned the solar panels. In the case of Axon, they install that equipment for us and then turn over ownership to us. So we would own those poles, we would own those cameras, we'd own those solar panels. They'd be assets of the town. As part of the Axon, the proposed Axon agreement, we negotiated to have warranty coverage extended throughout the duration, so they would handle any maintenance of the devices if there were any issues. We also got them to extend vandalism coverage and accident coverage for those devices. So if a car hits a pole and takes the camera down, it would be covered by Axon. And if somebody were to vandalize that camera, it would be covered by Axon. So we feel like we've captured kind of all of the anticipated costs that could be associated with it. But those are some of the other differences in how the technology is deployed compared with Flock. Happy to answer any other questions.
Chief, I appreciate that explanation. I'm curious, given the version you just gave, someone hits a pole and damages the equipment. Who's taking the equipment down? Who's replacing the equipment? Is that our staff?
Good question. No, that would be us. We would just have to figure out when we can come out here and do it. We're trying to get to about 3 to 4 days, get somebody out there, install it, or obviously get the camera up and running within 4 days.
Okay, thank you.
But we would do it on our end. Of course. Thank you.
I have a question about the data sharing with other municipalities. Is there going to be any hurdles to that if we are using different vendors?
Yeah, that's a good point. So with the termination of the Flock agreement, we will lose access to the Flock system. So other agencies that are using Flock will not be able to share with us. Similarly, it's my understanding that at this current time, other agencies that are not using Axon, we cannot share with either. City of Appleton uses Axon. They're obviously one of our most important, closest partners. So we would be able to share with them if we so choose. If they choose to share with us, they would be able to share with us. The City of Oshkosh, I know, uses Axon as well. Similar type relationship, we'd be able to share with them. They could share with us if we so chose. But other agencies that don't use Axon, that would remain a hurdle.
Is some of that sharing, though, controlled by policy? So if you would tell another OMRO or somebody else what the license plate was that you were looking for, they could look it up and answer your question?
Yes, so if another agency had a different vendor, we would be able to make that request. And I included our newly updated department policy in the packet for your review related to ALPR, and the first appendix, or the only appendix on that policy, is an outside agency request form. And that's how we would handle outside agencies that don't have direct sharing access, requesting that data from us. They'd fill out that form. We would ask some detailed questions about why they want that information, make sure that it meets our policy before then responding to them.
Okay. Any further questions? What are the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve the agreement for services between Axion and the town of Grand Chute as outlined in the staff memo.
During seconds.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you all for your presentation. This is very helpful. We're up to item H, resolution. Item number 1 is TBR 112026, approving the establishment of a new special revenue fund for ambulance services. Director Palmquist.
So this request is coming to you to create more transparency with the ambulance service that we're now offering. This will separate all the inflows and outflows of that revenue and expenditure and create, I guess, an easier way to see if it's creating a surplus or a deficit. And I'm requesting it now because I need to establish it in order to include it in the 2027 operating budget.
Questions? Comments?
I'll move to approve TBR-11-2026.
Clear seconds.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we're up to item I, ordinance O082026, amending Chapter 16, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, rescinding Section 16-7 Drainage Committee. Mr. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. In May of 2024, the town board adopted Section 16-7 to the municipal code, and that section of the code created a drainage committee that was created with the intent of reviewing drainage-related issues and making recommendations to the town board. Since that ordinance was adopted, however, the board has faced challenges trying to constitute and implement that drainage committee. We've been unsuccessful in doing so, but of course, stormwater issues have not gone away. So in 2024, late 2024, an introduction was made into the budget for the creation of a stormwater engineer position. And in May of 2025, the sanitary district number 3 did appoint a stormwater engineer. And the purpose behind appointing that position was to perform a variety of stormwater-related duties, but also to resolve local drainage issues, which is in essence the purpose behind the creation of the drainage committee. So by creating the stormwater engineer position, the town's effectively placed the local drainage issues in the hands of a professional engineer. thereby, in my estimation, negating the need for the continuation of the Drainage Committee. That was, and the purpose behind it, that was envisioned at the time 16-7 was adopted. So it's therefore my recommendation that 16.7 could be rescinded as it no longer serves a purpose, that purpose having been assumed basically by the stormwater engineer.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion from the board?
Motion to approve ordinance 08, 2026.
Daily seconds.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We're finally up to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.